What if I told you that one of the smartest and most sarcastic players in world football has just surrendered to Messi? But did it with a defiant smile and a line that sounds straight out of a spy movie? No, this is not an exaggerated headline. It's Thomas Müller, the German who once humiliated Barcelona on nights that Culés still struggle to digest, the same player who recently fell to Messi's Inter in the MLS, dropping an emotional and footballing bomb that further shakes and fuels the eternal debate: Messi versus Cristiano. But the most striking part is not what he said, it's how he said it. Müller, that player who never needed tattoos or flashy hairstyles to stand out, has just confessed that during his first 10 years as a professional, his footballing heart beat for Cristiano Ronaldo. Yes, the German who put 8 past Barca in Lisbon, who always seemed more pragmatic than romantic, was always on Team CR7. But something changed, and it wasn't just age, it was the World Cup. It was the final between Inter Miami and Vancouver Whitecaps. It was Messi. In a brief interview, Müller stripped things down and spoke like just another football fan. "They're both crazy," he said, referring to Messi and Cristiano, "but Messi is a little more elegant and hypnotic." And that's where the shift begins to take shape. Müller admits that over the years he became more romantic, more sensitive to style than to output, more attentive to work ethic than to statistics. And after watching Messi lift the World Cup with Argentina, and even more so after seeing him lift the MLS trophy, he had no choice but to surrender to the Argentine star. Müller switched to Messi's side. This is not just another voice in the ocean that feeds the GOAT debate. This is Müller, the executioner of Messi on more than one European night, acknowledging that the Argentine is the greatest footballer this game has ever had. And he says it plainly, without diplomacy, without chasing likes. He says it like someone who has been in the trenches, someone who has faced him and suffered him. Because yes, Müller also remembers the times when Messi's Barcelona made him bite the dust. "I did well on several occasions," he admits, "but we also suffered big defeats against Barca." That last sentence, coming from a guy who won everything with Bayern, carries weight. It carries history. It carries truth. And as if all that weren't enough, Müller closes with a line that blends humor, challenge, and respect. "So I'll hunt you again," he says to Messi, laughing. Is it a threat? A promise? An invitation to keep reliving old battles on North American soil for another year? What's certain is that the phrase captures something football desperately needs: rivalry with elegance, competition with admiration. Now, what does all this leave us with? What does it mean that figures like Müller, who lived through the golden era of both superstars, from the inside, are starting to lean toward Messi? Is the World Cup the decisive factor? Or is there something deeper, more intangible, that makes Messi connect with football's emotional core and its greatest representatives? And this is where the second part of the story begins. Because this isn't just about statistics, goals, or trophies, it's about what Messi represents on the pitch. The way he walks, the way he looks, the way he touches the ball as if it were part of his body, his ability to make the impossible feel inevitable, his silence that screams louder than 1,000 statements. Messi doesn't just play football, he interprets it. Müller understood it. It took him years, but he understood it. And he's not alone. More and more players, coaches, and journalists who once leaned toward Cristiano's power, his steel mentality, his limitless ambition, are now being seduced by Messi's poetry. Because football, in the end, is not just numbers. It's emotion, it's art, it's memory. And if Müller, who faced him, suffered him, and beat him, now chooses him as the greatest, what's left for us mere mortals, other than to accept that we are witnessing something unrepeatable? There is something deeply symbolic about what just happened with Thomas Müller. It's not just another statement in the eternal Messi versus Cristiano debate. It's a confession that, coming from who it comes from, carries an emotional and footballing weight that goes beyond a simple comparison of talent. Because Müller is not just any player. He's someone who has been at the heart of European football for more than a decade, who has won everything there is to win, who has faced both monsters in the most tense and decisive moments. And now, from maturity, from experience, from the romanticism that only time can grant, he leans toward Messi. And that, honestly, says far more than it seems. For years, Müller was the symbol of a pragmatic, efficient, almost surgical Germany. His style was never exuberant, but it was lethal. He didn't need dribbles to shine, nor grand gestures to lead. His football was cerebral, almost mathematical. And that's why it's no surprise that in his early years as a professional, he felt a stronger affinity for Cristiano Ronaldo, the perfect athlete, the tireless competitor, the man who turned football into a science of performance. It was logical, it was coherent. But football, like life, is not always about logic. Sometimes what moves us is not what can be measured, but what can be felt. And that's where Messi comes in. Müller says it clearly. They're both crazy, but Messi is more elegant. And that word, elegant, is key. Because it's not just about aesthetics, it's about essence. Messi doesn't just play well. Messi plays with a naturalness that seems impossible. His talent doesn't impose itself, it flows. He doesn't need to shout to be heard, nor to run like a madman to prove he's there. Messi is the silence that disarms, the pause that accelerates, the pass no one saw coming. And Müller recognizes it. He recognizes it after facing him, after beating him, and also after suffering him. Because yes, Müller's Bayern handed Messi some of the toughest nights of his career. Inter Miami did too recently. But there were also moments when the Argentine made the Germans tremble. And that stays. That leaves a mark. What's interesting here is how Müller explains his change in perspective. He doesn't do it through statistics or silverware. He does it through emotion. He says that now, older, more romantic, he values style over output. And that is evolution. It's moving from admiring the one who wins to admiring the one who, while winning, also moves you. It's understanding that football is not only competition, it's also art. And in that art, Messi is the master. The World Cup was, without a doubt, a turning point. For many, it was the perfect closing of a legendary career. For others, it was confirmation of something we already knew, that Messi didn't need that trophy to be the greatest, but once he had it, there were no arguments left to deny it. And Müller admits it, with honesty, with respect, with admiration. But the most fascinating part is how he closes his statement. "So I'll hunt you again," he says to Messi, laughing. That phrase, which sounds like a joke, contains a deep truth. Football lives off duels, off stories being told, off reunions. And for Müller, now in the MLS, to dream of facing Messi again in 2026 is not just a fun anecdote. It's proof that even within rivalry, there is beauty. Because football needs that. It needs players who respect each other, who admire each other, who challenge each other without hatred. It needs stories like this, where the executioner becomes a fan, where the pragmatist turns romantic, where the one who once chose Cristiano now surrenders to Messi. And it's not about saying one is better than the other. It's about understanding what each represents. Cristiano is willpower turned muscle. Messi is talent turned poetry. Both are giants. But when someone like Müller, who has lived football from the inside, chooses Messi, he doesn't do it because it's trendy. He does it because he has seen what few have seen. He does it because he has felt what few have felt. And that, to me, is the most valuable part of all this. Now, what's left for us? The ones watching from the outside. What do we do with this revelation? Do we take it as just another opinion or as a sign that football is changing? That we increasingly value the intangible, the emotional, the artistic? I think we are. I believe we're entering an era where football is measured not only by goals, but by moments, by gestures, by silences, by looks. And in that territory, Messi is unbeatable. So I'll leave it to you. Do you feel that Müller's statement marks a before and that after in the debate over the greatest of all time? Or do you think there's still room to argue? Could the 2026 World Cup change this discussion? We'll find out in the coming months. If you're passionate about football like I am, subscribe, comment, and stay, because this doesn't end here. There's much more to say. Thank you.